Hi, this is an introduction to vat dyeing. The first thing that you're going to want to do is round up a bunch of supplies. Many are common household items, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on those, and others are ingredients. And in the show notes below this video, I'm putting links to where you can find all of those ingredients to purchase them. I will say this about the common household supplies. Two things. One is don't skimp on tarps. This is a messy project, so if you are dyeing inside, really cover everything. And two, when you choose whatever you're going to put your dye in, make sure that there's plenty of room between the surface area of your dye and the top of that pot, bin, vat, whatever you're putting it in. Because when you're stirring it around, you don't want to get any splashes. A quick overview of the steps. First, we're going to weigh our fabric when it's dry and calculate how many ingredients we need in terms of our dye recipe. Then we're going to wash our garments in professional textile detergent. We're going to mix up our dye. That's the fun mad scientist part. And then we're going to make up our dye bath, add our fabric while stirring. And after we've done that for a long while, the stirring part, we'll add a fixer that helps the dye adhere to the garment, and then there'll be another waiting period involved, and then we'll rinse out the dye, excess dye. We'll do that very thoroughly 2 times in the washing machine, and then we're going to wash on hot, and then you'll have a garment ready to wear. Okay, I want to say a couple things to set expectations. This video is about 10 minutes long. That is not how long it takes to round up all your supplies and dye your garment. Aside from pre-washing and rinsing and washing afterwards, you should plan on 1 to 2 hours because there's time needed in the dye bath, there's time to measure ingredients, there's time to clean up spills. It's not an instant process, but compared to making these jeans from scratch, this is an incredibly speedy way to upcycle things. So I hope you'll have fun with it and send photos of your finished pieces. To start out with, you're going to want to weigh your garments. And here we have some t-shirts, and you can see 11 ounces, 16 ounces is a pound. We probably could throw one more t-shirt in there. So you need to figure out how much dye you need, and you can check our handout or go to the Dharma website. And if you've ever seen the back of a package of rice where it says, if you want to make this much, this is how much you use, that's exactly what's going on with this little graphic here. And I like to write down my proportions on a post-it note, so I have that later. If you didn't see the video before class, just start by washing your garment here. Just take 15 minutes or so to stir it around in a bucket of hot water with some of the professional textile detergent that I brought. Professional textile detergent or a pH balanced detergent to wash the clothes in is important. It's to scour them and get all of the oils from our bodies, from our interaction with the world, to get all the starches out, anything out that might interfere with the dye adhering. Once you've got your washing done, let's set up our dye bath. And we're going to start by putting a whole bunch of water and salt into a bucket together, or a bin, or pot, whatever you're using. I'm going to play it in sort of fast motion for you on the video because it's so boring to watch water pour. Okay? And you'll need, for every gallon of water, you're going to need a cup of salt. And again, I like to use the big gallon water container to figure out how much is 1 gallon. 1 more cup. Gosh, I hope I measured right. There's my 3rd cup of salt. 1, 2, 3. And now for the dusty stuff, we want to mask and put your gloves on. And what we want to do now is make a little paste out of that dye. I kind of overshot how much water I needed here and went straight to the slurry stage, but you really want to aim for something more like toothpaste. And you'll hear the granules in the bottom of whatever you're mixing in. And then when you add a little bit more water, usually I do this from the dye bath so that I don't get excess liquid into my mixture. That'll allow you to dissolve all the granules, and we'll have a very concentrated, what we call slurry, which is not yet. So now that our slurry is all mixed up and we can't hear any granules in there, we're going to just pour it into our 3 gallons of water in a bigger bucket. And I'm just using the spoon to kind of rinse out my little container. And we're also going to put in 2 teaspoons. So here, whoops, that's my half teaspoon measure. Half tablespoon. Where's my teaspoon? Dollar store, don't fail me. 2 teaspoons of Calsolene oil. And what this does is it helps break the surface tension so that when we put things in, they go in more evenly, okay? So I've got my mask back on because we're gonna mix up the soda ash. I want to do that before I have my dye bath ready so that I don't have to stop and do it when I'm, stirring and all that kind of stuff. I just want to have it ready to go. And it's 1/3 cup. And we're just going to dissolve that in water, and just use as much water as you need to get it to dissolve. Whee! So before we put these jeans into the dye bath, they've been washed with professional detergent from Dharma Trading Co. And I guess I don't need my mask anymore. And we're going to wet them down thoroughly, and that'll help the dye travel evenly through them. Nice and wet. Any dry spots the dye will adhere to unevenly. So we just want to look and make sure that we don't see any dry spots in there. The first few minutes when it goes in is the most crucial for kind of even dye. But basically we're stirring it in here, and you want to make sure that it's gentle agitation. You don't want to make a lot of spills and splashes because that can make mess. So gentle agitation, and you're going to do this for 20 minutes. Okay. So it's been 20 minutes, and now we're going to start adding the soda ash. Now the soda ash can cause streaking, so when you put it in, push your fabric off to one side of the pot. When you first put it in, you really have to be careful about streaking, so keep it off of your fabric and kind of mix it into the other side of the bath before you stir things up. And we're going to start by adding really small quantities. And as we work our way through the amount of soda ash we've dissolved, we can add it in larger and larger quantities, like up to 1/4 cup at a time. And that's because the dye vat will be a little more concentrated with it, so it won't change things as much. Now that everything's mixed in together, we'll leave our dye to cure. And this means just leaving the dye and the fabric together for enough time for the reaction to happen. And if you want darker colors, brighter colors, then leave it in for a longer period of time. If you want something more pastel, you can go for a shorter period of time. Okay, so in terms of removing and rinsing your garment, they recommend that you rinse it until the water runs clear. I've never had the patience to do that at a sink. I've stood there for 10 minutes and still had dye coming out of my fabric. So for the sake of this class, what I recommend you do is give it a preliminary rinse and wrap it in plastic and take it home, where you can rinse it in the washing machine on a cold cycle twice in a row. And we're going to finish where we started, by washing on hot with professional textile detergent. The first couple times that you wash it, I advise washing it by itself because it still may be putting off some of the dye, and you don't want that backwash to ruin any of your other garments. And this is how our jeans turned out. Now they did need a little patch, and they were taken in at the sides, so last time you saw them they weren't sewn up, but now they look quite decent. They may not be your best pair of jeans, but they're certainly good for another few years of wear and tear.